Good evening and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where today we will be continuing to read The Golden Age by Kenneth Grahame. So, let's get going. Gone was the brambled waste, gone the flickering tangle of woodland. Instead, terrace after terrace of shaven sward, stone-edged, urn-cornered, stepped delicately down to where the stream, now tamed and educated, passed from one to another marble basin, in which on occasion gleams of red hinted at goldfish in among the spreading water-lilies. The scene lay silent and slumberous in the brooding noonday sun. The drowsing peacock squatted humped on the lawn. No fish leapt in the pools, nor bird declared himself from the environing hedges. Self-confessed it was here, then, at last the garden of sleep. Two things, in those old days, I held in especial distrust: gamekeepers and gardeners. Seeing, however, no baleful apparitions of either nature, I pursued my way between rich flower-beds in search of the necessary princess. Conditions 56 declared her present. I'm guessing that's supposed to be a hyphen? Yeah. Conditions declared her presence patently as trumpets. Without this centre, such surroundings could not exist. That really threw me off, actually. A pavilion, gold-topped, wreathed with lush jessamine, beckoned with a special significance over close-set shrubs. There, if anywhere, she should be enshrined. Instinct and some knowledge of the habits of princesses triumphed. For, indeed, there she was, in no trance repose, however, but laughingly struggling to disengage her hand from the grasp of a grown-up man who occupied the marble bench with her. As to age, I suppose now that the two swung in respective scales that pivoted on 20, but children heed no minor distinctions to them. To them, the inhabited world is composed of the two main divisions, children and upgrown people. The latter being in no way superior to the former, only hopelessly different. These two, then, belonged to the grown-up section. I paused, thinking it strange they should prefer seclusion when there were fish to be caught and butterflies to hunt in the sun outside, and as I cogitated thus, the grown-up man caught sight of me. "Hello, Sprat," he said with some abruptness. "Where did you spring from?" I came up the stream, I explained politely and comprehensively, and I was only looking for the princess. "Then you are a water baby," he replied. "And what do you think of the princess, now you've found her?" "I think she is lovely," I said, and doubtless I was right, having never learned to flatter. "But she's wide awake, so I suppose somebody has kissed her." This very natural deduction moved the grown-up man to laughter. But the princess, turning red and jumping up, declared that it was time for lunch. "Come along then," said the grown-up man, "and you too, water baby. Come and have something solid. You must want it." I accompanied them, without any feeling of false delicacy. The world as known to me was spread with food each several midday, and the particular table one sat at seemed a matter of no importance. The palace was very sumptuous and beautiful, just what a palace ought to be, and we were met by a stately lady, rather more grown up than the princess, apparently her mother. My friend the man was very kind, and introduced me as the captain, saying I'd just run down from Aldershot. I didn't know where Aldershot was, but had no manner of doubt that he was perfectly right. As a rule, indeed, grown-up people are fairly correct on matters of fact. It is in the higher gift of imagination that they are so sadly to seek. The lunch was excellent and varied. Another gentleman in beautiful clothes, a lord presumably, lifted me into a high-carved chair and stood behind it, brooding over me like a providence. I endeavoured to explain who I was and where I had come from, and to impress the company with my own toothbrush and Harold's tables. But either they were stupid, or is it a characteristic of fairyland that makes everyone laughs at the most ordinary remarks? "My friend," the man said good-naturedly. "All right, water baby, you came up the stream, and that's good enough for us." The lord, a reserved sort of man, I thought, took no share in the conversation. After lunch I walked on the terrace with the princess and my friend the man, and was very proud. And I told him what I was going to be, and he told me what he was going to be, and then I remarked, "I suppose you two are going to get married?" He only laughed after the fairy fashion. "Because if you aren't," I added, "you really ought to." Meaning only that a man who discovered a princess living in the right sort of palace like this, and didn't marry her there and then, was false to all recognized tradition. They laughed again, and my friend suggested I should go down to the pond and look at the goldfish while they went for a stroll. I was sleepy and assented, but before they left me, the grown-up man put 2 half-crowns in my hand, for the purpose, he explained, of treating the other water babies. I was so touched by this crowning mark of friendship that I nearly cried, and thought much more of his generosity than of the fact that the princess I feel like I've missed the timing of this sentence. And thought much more of his generosity than of the fact that the princess, ere she moved away, stooped down and kissed me. I watched them disappear down the path. How naturally arms seem to go round waists in fairyland. And then, my cheek on the cool marble, lulled by the trickle of water, I slipped into dreamland, out of real and magic world alike. When I woke, the sun had gone in. A chill wind set all the leaves a-whispering, and the peacock on the lawn was harshly calling up the rain. A wild, unreasoning panic possessed me, and I sped out of the garden like a guilty thing, wriggled through the rabbit run, and threaded my doubtful way homewards, hounded by nameless terrors. The half-crowns happily remained solid and real to the touch, but could I hope to bear such treasure safely through the brigand-haunted wood? It was a dirty, weary little object that entered its home. At nightfall, by the unassuming aid of the scullery window, and only to be sent tealess to bed seemed infinite mercy to him. Officially tealess, that is, for, as was usual after such escapades, a sympathetic housemaid, coming delicately by backstairs, stayed him with chunks of cold pudding and condolence, till his small skin was tight as any drum. Then, nature asserting herself, I passed into the comforting kingdom of sleep, where, a golden carp of fattest build, I awed it in Then, nature asserting herself, I passed into the comforting kingdom of sleep, where, a golden carp of fattest build, I awed it in translucent waters with a new half-crown snug under right fin and left, and thrust up a nose through water-lily leaves to be kissed by a rose-flushed princess. Sorry, the last few sentences... there were a few sentences in that particular bit that kind of threw me off, I'm going to be completely honest, in how they are supposed to be structured and sounded. Do excuse me. But I figured rather than going on, we might as well end here, since this is going to be the start of a new chapter of sorts anyway. So I figured it's probably better to start a new story tomorrow, rather than just doing a paragraph or two and then stopping, since we can see where the end of this one is. So, excuse me. I will say my usual goodbyes. So I will say thank you very much for joining me today. I don't know what's going on with my speech, but I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon or night, No matter what time of day it is, I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.